This is the #1 requested program when I'm coaching CEOs and when I'm coaching high-level performers. It's basically the congruency test. So what is the congruency test? First of all, I just want to thank a tremendous amount of people for allowing me to piggyback or stand on their shoulders, because they've created some amazing things. And so the congruency test is a combination of things from the works of Dr. John Demartini, Dr. Ivan Misner, Anthony Robbins, Robin Sharma, and countless others. And basically, the way it works is this. What we do is we look at what you think is most important in your life. So you would basically tell me what are the most important things in your life. We would compare that to your goals and then how you're actually living. So see these three things. What do you think is most important, your goals, and how you're actually living. And then we'll give you a number, a score, and tell you how congruent you are between these three things. So those who score low on the congruency test basically gain some valuable insights, because it explains why you may be inconsistent at achieving your goals. It explains why you may be volatile emotionally. But most importantly, even if you score low on the test, it's okay, because what it's going to do in the end, when we make some adjustments to one of these three things, it's going to get you congruent and get your train on the track, if you will. So then at least you are on purpose and clear about what your priorities are, so that you can move forward effectively. It not only will get you to prevent, self-sabotage when it comes to goal setting. It not only helps you become more stable emotionally, but it also helps you feel more inspired, more grateful, and allows you to feel not just a sense of purpose, but be literally on purpose. I believe, and I've coached people in all walks of lives and all ages, and I believe that every single person wants to wake up inspired, wants to go to bed grateful, and in between wants to chase a dream. And when I say that, people are talking about, what do you mean by a dream? A dream is not just a short-term goal, but a purpose, a long-term vision that you have that you're working towards. That's what purpose really is. And so the congruency test is a very, very important step to getting your train on the track. Now, some people have scored very high in the congruency test. I had one gal score 100% on the congruency test. In 17 years, she's pretty much the only person who scored 100%. And what's interesting is that before she started the test, I always ask people, how clear are you about your life at present? She said 80%. She did the congruency test. She got 100%. And I'm like, I failed you. And she's like, no, yeah, you didn't. I got some value in this. I said, really? I said, well, just out of curiosity, how clear are you now about your life? And she said 100%. I'm like, hold on a second. You scored 100%. That means what you thought was important matched the goals that you set and the goals that you're achieving, and matched how you're actually living and functioning and performing as a human being. You scored 100%, and yet you got more clear about your life. This is the beauty of it, is that even if you come in really crystal clear, it'll get you more clear about your life. And then I remembered what I heard from Oprah Winfrey when she had two guests on her show. Former President Barack Obama, he was the president at the time, I think, and second was Beyonce, who was at the time, star-studded. And she basically said that after the show, they both asked her, kind of nudged her and said, how do you think I did? Which is really surprising to me, and it was surprising to many of you as well, and Oprah as well. She said that, why would somebody at that level, right, Beyonce and Obama, want reassurance or want that feedback to know that, how did they do? And that is because no matter what level you achieve in life, I think all of us want that reassurance that we're on the right track. And so that's what the congruency test does. It helps you get crystal clear about what you want to achieve in your life, short-term goals, but also long-term vision. What is it that you want to achieve before you die? What is most important to you? What is the purpose of your life? What goals are worth setting and worth striving and shedding blood, sweat, and tears for? What's worth fighting for tooth and nail? And basically just what is your life really about? So, and not only that, it also helps you just gain more emotional control, because then everything that happens in your life, you can bring meaning to it and relevance to it, and that makes you more emotionally resilient. So that's pretty much a congruency test. It's a very, very powerful thing. And if you have any questions about it, please let me know. I am doing free discovery sessions with people around the world. There's a limited amount of people that I can handle every month. So if there's some burning questions that you have about this, please feel free to put it in the comments or reach out to us, okay? So here's how you actually do the congruency test. Ready? So the first thing I want you to do is you're gonna need a piece of paper, or you're gonna need something to type in, all right? So first thing I want you to do is I want you to write down right now how clear you are about your life. I know you might be thinking, like, what part of my life? I'm talking all of it. But when you just take a snapshot of your life, all of it, how clear is the picture? So write down a number, okay? Out of 10, or write down a percentage. That's step one. Step two is I want you to write down what you think right now are the 3 most important things in your life. 3 most important things in your life. Step 3 is listing 7 goals. Now, you may not have 7 goals in mind. If you do, fantastic, just list them. If you don't have them, then make them up now. And let me just give you some areas of life to consider. Think of goals related to your physical health or your physique, your body. Goals related to your mental health, your psychology, your mind. That's 2, body, mind. Think of goals that are spiritual or relate to your soul. Now I want you to think of career-related goals or business-related goals. Okay? The 5th one is goals related to wealth building, financial-related goals. Now I want you to think of goals related to your family, your key relationships. And finally, think of goals related to relationships at large. So your social circles and your social life. Okay? So if you're able to come up with 1 for each, then that would be 7. Or you might have 7 spread out across 2 or 3 of those. All right? So we got how clear you are about your life, what you think is most important in life, 3 things, and number 3, 7 goals. All right, well done. Now I want you just to park that aside and use a fresh area, fresh document, fresh paper. And now I want you to answer a bunch of questions, and then this is gonna generate some data, and then you're gonna calculate the data, organize the data, I should say, and then calculate the data, and then turn this data into something you can use so that you can complete the congruency test, okay? So here are the questions. Now, for every question that I ask you, please remember that there's no right answer, and this is not about thinking up some creative, innovative answer. It's actually based purely on observation. So it's really about looking at your life and accumulating evidence to support each one of these answers, okay? Each one of these questions, rather. So the first question has to do with praying, meditating, wishing for, or visualizing. All right? So this question says, so first of all, think about what you do most. Do you visualize? Do you pray? Do you meditate? Or do you wish? Various people, depending on their ages and depending on their culture and you know, their thought process, they may do one of these or a combo of these. All right? So first of all, just kind of write those 4 down, maybe circle the 1, 2, or all of them if you do all of those, okay? Now, the question is, what do you pray for, wish for, meditate on, and visualize most? What 3 things most? So let's say you're a visualizer. This question would be straightforward. It would be, what 3 things in your life do you visualize most? So we got 3 answers, okay? That's the first question. The second question has to do with being consistent and persistent. So the question here is, what 3 things or areas of your life are you most consistent and persistent? So imagine somebody who is a black belt karate teacher, and I said, where are you most consistent and persistent? He'd say, I'm most consistent when it comes to practicing anything related to karate, right? And where is he most persistent? He's been pursuing, persistent in his pursuit towards achieving his, black belt. Okay, that would be one of the 3 things, right, that he's most persistent and consistent with. Remember, not what you wish you were most consistent and persistent, not what you wish you prayed for, visualized, meditate, or prayed for, but what are you actually visualizing, praying for, meditating, and wishing for? Where are you actually most consistent and persistent in your life? All right? So again, you got 3 answers for each. The third has to do with learning. We all have a thirst to learn. Whether you are learning through traditional academia, school, university, college, or some other program, or some other course, or whether you're learning from life, from people, okay, or whether you're learning online through social media, I don't really care where. The question is, what 3 things do you have a thirst to learn about most? Not you wish you had a thirst to learn about most, but you're actually studying most. What 3 things show up? So is it related to children? Is it related to mental health? Is it related to travel? It doesn't matter. Just write down the 3 things. The next question has to do with your energy. So I want you to think of this point, this concept, and that is that, or this observation is, people who leap out of bed in the morning to do something are doing it because they actually have the energy for it. If there's something you wake up and have the energy for, that thing is important. And if there's things that you pass up because you won't wake up for, they're clearly not important. So this helps you understand who you are, because this question has to do with what energizes you to basically get out of bed in the morning. So there's 3 parts of this question. This has to do with energy. So you may say, okay, I get up for work every day. That's what you wake up for. That's the first thing that's what gets you out of bed. In fact, you may not get out of bed until you work backwards with, okay, I got to be at work at this time, so it takes me this much time to get ready. I need to get up by this time. You boom, hit the alarm, and that's when you hop out of bed, right? So work would be 1. So the first question is, what do you wake up for? What are you energized? What brings you energy in order to get out of bed? That's the first thing. Second thing is, what do you stay up for? Because we wake up for and we stay up for the things that are dearest to us, the things that are most important to us, without judging this just yet, because you might say, oh, I don't love waking up to go to work. we'll challenge that and come to that later. So the next question is, what do you stay up for? Okay, so what do you wake up for? One thing. What do you stay up for most? Second thing. And third, what brings you energy throughout the day? In other words, your energy is at a certain level, and then this certain thing shows up and your energy goes to another level and you automatically just want to do it. And if you're not doing that very thing, your energy will start to decline. There's guys, for example, that if they're not focused on their career and they're socializing, their energy drops. And then there's some idea that relates to career, the energy all of a sudden goes up. Okay, so that's the next question. Okay, then what you want to ask is, what do I plan for most? Now, be careful here because everyone uses an agenda. You either use a mental agenda, so you plan things here that you're going to be doing in the coming hours, days, weeks, months, years, or you use an electronic agenda, like such as on your phone, like a Google Calendar or something, or you might be what some people call old school, whereby you still like to write things down. So you may use one of those calendars, you circle certain days of the month and you write down what you got to do on those days, okay? So consider which one you use most. You may use all three, that's fine. But now the question is, what three things do you plan for most? Again, not three things you wish you were planning for most, but what's actually in the agenda. So you may have to go and look. Just crack open your phone and just look, what are you planning for? If you notice that there's gym workouts in every day, and that's for physical health, you may find there's meetings that you have every day that relate to your business. You may find that you have important social functions there. I had a gentleman that I worked with who basically said, I don't use an electronic agenda or a written agenda. What I plan for most is in my mind. And it was incredible that this guy could store all his court dates in his mind. So he was taking people to court, he was being taken to court, and he wasn't a lawyer. And that's basically what was filling his calendar with most. Okay, so we got that one. The next question has to do with detail. I'm sure you'd agree that the things that are dearest to you, that are most important to you, that are most meaningful to you, you speak about in detail. In fact, for things that are not important to you, you don't have a lot of content for anyway, so you really can't speak about them. If you're not a historian, you probably can't speak for an extended period of time on history. You won't know it in detail compared to a history professor, for example, or a history buff. All right? So this question has to do with, what do you speak about in detail most? What three things? The easiest way to think about this is to think, okay, if I was to just eavesdrop on all your conversations on the telephone, what would be the content of the conversations? You'd be speaking about, for example, your children in high-level detail, about a particular book that they got to take, a particular lesson that they had trouble with, a particular area they need tutoring in, when they got their holidays, who the new principal is, and all these things relate to children's education, all right? You may find that when you look closely at the conversations you have on Zoom or on the phone or whatever, they have to do with work. It's mostly related to your work, your career, business, and meetings. So you'd put that down. So it might be family and work. And the third might be, for example, I'm speaking to in ever fine detail about, sports. Okay, so those would be the three answers for detail. Okay? So the next has to do with your body. Now, the simplest way of sharing, of covering this area would be to ask you this: what do you hold your pee for? I know this is probably the most sophisticated of all the questions, but what do you hold your P for? Which basically says, what things will you not want to interrupt in order to give back to Mother Nature, in order to go to the bathroom? Okay, there's people, for example, I mean, right now I can guarantee you that I love educating so much that I would probably, even if this recording is 3 hours long, I would probably hold my visit to the WC as long as possible. Why? Because this is most important to me right now. So that might be the easiest way to think of this question, but really what we're asking here when it comes to your body is, what do you sacrifice your body for most? What three things, right? You might be sacrificing your body for your children. You might be sacrificing your body for your sport. You might be sacrificing your body for your work, in terms of you travel a lot and you're on, economy class and you're sitting uncomfortably and you walk and hike for hours. You might be playing sports for hours and, athletics. That's what you're sacrificing your body for. Now, I know this question can be, well, no, I'm sacrificing my body to gain bodily health, whatever. But the answers that you want to think about here are the three things that you sacrifice your body for most. That may correlate with the three things you hold your urine for most as well. Okay? So, a very simple one there. The next thing I want to ask you has to do with mastery. Because every human being, whether you're aware of it or not, is on the pursuit of mastering something. Okay? So, for example, you might say, hold on a second, I haven't mastered anything. That may not be the question. If you're already a master at something, but you're not actually, and you're a black belt, let's say you're a black belt when you're 12 and now you're 45 and karate has not showed up on any of the responses that we've prompted you on so far, then that's not it. The question is, what are you seeking to master or becoming more masterful at? What three things at the moment? Again, it could be coaching, it could be CrossFit, it could be social relationships. Okay? Again, there's no right answer here, and this is not about what you wish, it's just about what you are actually and accurately observing about your life. All right, we're getting close to the end. There's a few more. You might already be starting to see a pattern here, and if not, hopefully the pattern will reveal itself as we continue. So the next question has to do with videoing. If I was to take, or someone was to take a video camera and basically record you 24/7, where would they find you most? What three areas, what three places would they find you most? Now be careful, because if you write down home and coffee shop and office, like your work, that might not be enough detail, because what you want to do is you want to actually peel away what they really mean. So home, if you're at home because that's where your wife and children are, or your spouse is, or your partner is, or something, then home is not necessarily about the house, it's about the relationships. So you'd write down, for example, family. Okay? The second area, if it was coffee shop, if it's coffee shop to work on your book, because that's where you like to write, then it's really about your book or your career, whatever the book writing represents. If the coffee shop represents being at the coffee shop to socialize, then you'd write down social life, not Starbucks. Okay? If the coffee shop has to do with, for example, business meetings, then again, it'd be related to your work or career or business, right? And then the third place, I think I said office. So if it's your office and the office is, for example, to write a book, to work on your book, it'd be about that. If your office is to do team building sessions for your team, and that's pretty much where I'd find you most, it would be about that role in your business, right? About the team building role, or it could just be business in general, depending on how specific you want to get with this. But I think that career would be enough. Maybe I drill down a little bit too deep on that, although there's something that we do deeper to this when I'm coaching people, where we'd find the deeper meanings of each one of these. But I think for now, this is a fantastic start, okay? Just a few more things I want you to think about. One is I want you to think about what gives you, what brings you happiness. I know this word, I'm not a big fan of the word happiness. I think there's something better to pursue than happiness, which I'll cover in one of my rhapsodies or in one of my future videos. But just think of this, what are the memories that bring you the most happiness or joy? Let's just keep it just simple that way. Because I find when people do this, it's usually very accurate. So if you wrote down, for example, being a mom, the day, your first birthday for your child or something, or when your child said to you, "Oh, Mom, you're the best mom I ever had," and bought you something on Mother's Day, for example, if that makes you happy, the answer, motherhood probably showed up in the answers previous to this question. Okay, so that would be, you want 3 responses for what memories bring you the most joy, what memories bring you the most happiness, okay? Same thing, joy or happiness, pick one, and then just 3 responses. The next question has to do with pride. The question here is, what memories bring you the most pride? Because typically the things that you're going to store in your memory that make you most proudful are going to be things that are dear to you, that are most meaningful, that are most important to you, right? Maybe it's, for example, the fact that you had a child. When your child gave you a birthday, a Mother's Day gift, and said you're the best parent. Maybe that was the memory that gives you the most, that makes you feel most proud. Or maybe you're most proud because you accomplished something, like you became a professional at something. Or maybe you accomplished something, like you ran a marathon or something like that. So again, without judgment, just look at what 3 things bring you the most pride. So there you have it. That's pretty much it. It's 11 things. All right. What you visualize, pray for, wish for, or meditate on most. Number 2, where you're most consistent and persistent. Number 3, what you have a thirst to learn about most. Number 4, what do you have the most energy for in the morning, at night, and in between. Number 5, what do you plan for most in your agenda, electronic, written, or mental? Where are you most detailed? What 3 things are you most detailed towards most? What do you sacrifice your body for most? Or again, the more sophisticated way of saying it would be, you remember. And what do you what do you feel you're on the road to mastering? And if I was to video you, where would I find you most? What 3 areas? And last 2 would be, what 3 memories bring you the most happiness? And what are you most proud of? What 3 things? Okay, that's pretty much your 11 responses. So now what you have are 33 answers, right? Because we got 3 responses for each of the 11 questions, which is a total of 33 answers. So here's what I want you to do first. The first thing I want you to do in terms of organizing the data here is to underline any synonyms that showed up. For example, you might find the word money scattered, or the word finances scattered, throughout this form, throughout this document. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you are clear about what's a more specific and a more accurate term. Is it money or is it finance? Is it partner or is it family? Is it friends or is it social circle? If they mean different things, you can keep them as separate things. But if they mean the same thing, if they're synonyms, make sure you choose the most accurate, most specific one, or the one that resonates with you most, because we're going to have to be tallying them up, okay? And so it'll be easier to identify the same word than synonyms. Okay. Second thing I want you to do is I want you to identify the item that showed up most, then identify the item that showed up second most and third most. So for example, there might be an item that showed up as an answer to every single one of the questions. Remember guys, every one of these three answers should be unique, right? So when I said, what do you plan for most? It shouldn't be work, 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 or kids, kids, kids. It should be kids if it's first, and then what's the second thing you plan for most? Work, and what's the third thing you plan for most? My workouts at the gym, okay? So you should have, like I said, 3 unique responses for each answer. And now you want to go ahead and find the item that showed up the most. It might have showed up 11 times. Then you want to find out the item that showed up the second most, and then third most, okay? So maybe put a triangle around the item that showed up most, a square around the item that showed up second most, and then circle the item that showed up third most. All right, if you have a tie, 2 items that showed up, for example, 10 times, then what you want to do is you're going to need some other questions. So just feel free to send a comment and here, and I'll be able to provide you some additional questions. But you should have had by now. We should have broken the tie break, and that's why the more questions you have, the less likely you're going to have a tie. So now what you want to do is, in your document or on a piece of paper, just draw a triangle, which I call a pyramid, because we've just discovered the pyramid of your priorities, your purpose, your chief objectives in life. So in that triangle, break it up into 3 parts. The top part is the item that showed up most. The middle part is the item that showed up second most. And on the bottom, write down the item that showed up third most. So there you have it. You have now objectively looked at your life and through observation have accumulated evidence to allow you to piece together how you are actually living, functioning, performing, being, doing, right? So this is basically revealed who you are. Please don't judge it. Nobody's is glamorous. I've had people say, God, mine's so boring. It's family, work, and travel. And that's okay. And the Hollywood movie star would be, maybe family, movies, which is career, and travel. So, I mean, it's not going to sound glamorous when you break it down to 3 things, okay? Some of you might love what you've just revealed, but I guarantee you, if you take this pyramid and ask yourself, is this me? It should be unique to you, like your fingerprint, retinal pattern, voice pattern, and DNA are unique to you. And if you take this pyramid and you point it to your sister, brother, or friend and say, is this you? By golly, I bet you they're going to say, no, not at all. And they'll be happy to say that, because to them it'll be boring. And to you, it should be completely exhilarating to know that you've just figured out who you are. And to live a unique life, right, is to live in alignment with your pyramid, because this is unique only to you. So what's amazing is that if you want to be unique, all you got to do is focus on these 3 things and living them out, because no 2 people on the planet, I guarantee you, have the exact same pyramid. Even if they do value the same 3 things that we put on there, there's various distinctions to be made for each one, I guarantee that. Now, what you can do is you can go to drdemartini.com and you can do his value determination process on his website. I'm a huge fan of his. And you're going to find, if you do his value determination, you should have come up with the same 3 answers. There's many different ways of doing this, but the main thing is that you're able to identify the pattern here and revealed what's unique to you. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to help you figure out how to know your percent congruency. So now you have your triangle, your pyramid, with the 3 items that showed up most. Now what I want you to do is I want you to just ask yourself at this point, how clear are you right now, having done this? How clear are you about your life? Remember earlier in step 1, we asked you how clear you were and you wrote down a percentage or a number out of 10. Just compare that and see if it's changed. You should be more clear, because I bet you at the beginning, if I said, what's your life about, which is the next question, step 2, what's most important in your life. My question is, were the answers exactly the same? And if they are the same, which wording, like they may have synonyms, but which wording resonates with you most? I bet you it's after doing your pyramid. It should anyway, but not necessarily. If you have the exact same answers, then guess what? You're living incongruent. You're congruent, and you're living with integrity, because there's congruency between, there's a match between what you think is important and how you're actually living in your pyramid. Okay? So if you want to know what the percentage is of congruency between what you think is important and how you're actually living in your pyramid, just ask yourself, out of the three responses to what do you think is most important in your life, how many showed up on your pyramid? If one showed up, you're 33% congruent there. If two showed up, you're 66% congruent. And if all three showed up, you're 100% congruent. That's one way of doing this. The second thing you can do is you can now look at your goals and ask yourself, how many of the 7 goals showed up on my pyramid? If none of them showed up, then you're 0% congruent between the goals you're setting and how you're actually living. If 3 showed up out of 7, then you're close to 50%. If all 7 showed up, you're 100%. That's the second thing. The third thing you can do is you want to look at overall congruency with respect to what you think is important and your goals and how they compare to how you're actually living. Just look at the 10 responses, the 3 things you thought were most important in your life, and the 7 goals that you set. That's 10, and ask yourself, how many of those 10 items showed up on my pyramid? Which is really straightforward. If 1 showed up, you're 10% congruent. If 10 showed up, you're 100% congruent, or somewhere in between. Okay, that's pretty much it. So this should help you in many ways. I could probably spend 8 hours just on how this pyramid can work for you and how this congruency test can be used for you to help you become more emotionally resilient, to help you understand your energies, to help you reset goals, to help you prioritize, to help you plan. Because guys, if you're scoring low, something's got to change, right? Either you got to change how you're living to match what's most important and to match your goals, or you got to change your goals or what you think is most important to match what you're living, right? Or if there's only one of them, like for example, maybe it's just the goals that you need to change for everything to work out, right? So there's some decision making, there's some decisions that you got to be making right now in order for you to leverage what you just learned right now. Einstein said something really, really powerful. Einstein said that it's insanity to think that you can do the same thing over and over again. It's insane to think that by doing the same thing over and over again, you can expect a different result, right? That was a long way of saying it. And to build on Einstein and really to apply what he's saying here makes sense, right? Because my definition of insanity is, it's insane to think that you're going to achieve a goal that isn't important to you. It's insane to think that you're going to achieve a goal that is not on your pyramid. Think about why, guys. Because how can you achieve something that you don't visualize, pray for, meditate on, or visualize? How are you going to achieve something that you don't not only do that, but also are consistent and persistent, that you learn about, that you plan for, that you have energy for, that you spend detail on, that you sacrifice your body for, that you pursue and want to master, that if I video you, I'd find you working on it. It makes you happy when you think about it and when you do it, and it makes you proud that you accomplish it. How in heck are you going to achieve those things, right? Those goals, if they don't show up on your pyramid? So let me just end with this. The bad news is that the chances of achieving a goal that are not on your pyramid are closer to 0 than 100. I'm not being pessimistic here. I'm actually being realistic, because I think you would agree that those people who have goals that are on their pyramid are more likely going to achieve them. So the negative news, the bad news is that if your goal is not on your pyramid, it's less likely you're going to achieve it. The great news is that it's insane to think that you're not going to achieve something that is on your pyramid. Because think about it, guys. You're visualizing, praying for, meditating, and visualizing. The next thing is you're waking up for it, staying up for it, you're persistent and consistent, you're learning about it. It's insane to think that that's not going to evolve. So the goals that are on your pyramid, in terms of probability of achieving them, are going to be closer to 100 than 0. Now, I know that there's other factors at play here, because if you set an audacious goal that's, that you're going to achieve $1 trillion in the next 2 seconds, that might, even if it's on your pyramid, it might be an unrealistic goal. But remember, the goals that are on your pyramid are more likely to be achieved, and the goals that aren't are less likely to be achieved. If you wanted me to go into detail of any particular thing that I covered today, you want me to highlight, I'd be happy to do a separate video on it. So please feel free to comment, ask any questions, if there's anything you want me to cover in more detail. If anything that's unclear, there's a way of making it better, please don't hesitate, and feel free to share it. I really hope that this helped you get more clear about your life. I really hope this is going to help you become more emotionally resilient. I really hope that it's going to help you overcome your obstacles and ultimately get your choo-choo train on the track and truly live an inspired life where you go to bed grateful, and in between you're on purpose and chasing your dream.